Welcome to The Derby Difference, the podcast that shares the stories behind the people who make Derby Academy such a special place. Today's guest is someone who truly knows Derby from every angle. Nicole Carnes, our Director of Admission, has been a part of the Derby community for over 20 years. In that time, she hasn't just welcomed countless families through our doors, she's also experienced Derby as a parent, with both of her children attending the school. Nicole leads our Parent Ambassador program, our Student Ambassador program known as the DSAs, helping families see and feel what makes Derby unique from the very first visit. Today, we'll talk to her about her journey, what she's learned from 2 decades in admissions, and what she believes really defines the Derby difference. All right, Nicole, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Perfect. So this episode is perfect timing because applications and admission deadlines are coming up soon.
February 2nd.
So after 20 years, are you excited about February 2nd? Are you nervous about February 2nd? Is there mixed emotions? How do you feel about February 2nd?
Mixed emotions for sure. Excited to finally get to read all the applications and all the people we've met, but also nervous, making sure everybody completed and that we have enough for everything. So it's mixed emotions for sure.
I remember that I worked in admissions at Milton for a very long time. And I remember on January 10th, we were there's 30 people applying to the school. What are we going to do? And then on January 15th, we were like, okay, we got enough. I remember it was always this nerve-wracking feeling okay, this is just going to be the year where nobody applies, or, we're going to have 7 people applying for a grade that needs 45 kids. So I always remember it was a super nerve-wracking experience.
There's always a lot of last-minute people. So
Yes. So last-minute people, get on it. So you've been at Derby for over 20 years, and I was actually thinking about this. There are all these milestones in my life where I'm like, how have I been driving for 28 years? How is that possible? I was just getting my permit last week, and now all of a sudden I've been driving for longer than I haven't been driving. So you've been working at Derby for 20 years. How does that feel? Take us back to the beginning. What brought you to Derby? Why are you still here? Tell me about your Derby story.
All right. So I had just gotten married, which is funny. So no kids, nothing. And it seems like a lifetime ago. And yesterday at the same time, I had worked in a few different schools, a few different independent schools, public school, and I was trying to find the right fit. I've always liked the younger years, the elementary and early childhood years, and I worked at a few different independent schools, learned through that independent schools was the right fit for me. However, the schools I worked at were great. They went through 12th grade. One of them had a boarding population, and I learned through that I want a school where the foundational years are equally valued and emphasized as the older grades. You find, especially in a school with boarding, a lot of the resources and attention are driven to the boarding and the high school. So I was kind of searching for a school where the younger years and the foundation was really valued. And I found that and more at Derby. And I've stayed. And I think the reason my kids keep saying, why are you still there? We're not.
Yeah.
And not everything is about them. So I do like to remind them that a lot.
But they're fabulous. Ronan and Delaney, we love you. You're fabulous.
But it's home and it's a community, and the values that I was looking for 22 years ago still stay the same. So that's why I'm still here.
What are those core values? What is something that you saw when you first started at Derby 20 years ago, and then what is the same now?
Community for sure. And I think you're probably going to hear that a lot from me today because that is kind of at the core. And it's a community of colleagues, community of families, community of students. And that you just feel it right when you walk in. I still do remember my tour when I came through. And the other thing that stood out was kind of the respect. Kids were holding doors. Kids took off hats when we walked in the classroom. Kids were engaged, listening to the teacher. And those are values that I wanted in a school and work environment. So.
Perfect. What is something about Derby that you find yourself proud of after all these years? What's something that you've accomplished or something that Derby has done that you feel especially proud of?
I've been here through a lot of changes and through COVID and various things. And I think one thing I'm proud of that no matter what was going on kind of at this level, the children were still at the core of everything. Every decision that was being made, everything that was going on, that still stayed true. And I think that's something Derby should be so proud of. Nothing faltered in the classroom, no matter what was going on in the world or at other levels. So I think that's something that Derby should be proud of and continue to do so.
Yeah. And we were talking at our leadership team meeting yesterday, quite literally yesterday. This will be a couple weeks back once you listen to this podcast. But one of the things that we talked about our core identity as a leadership team is putting kids first.
Mhm.
And that literally sent shivers up my spine. And it gave me such a nice feeling that everything we do at the school is this going to make the kid experience better?
Mhm.
And I think as a parent and as someone that works here, that's what you want, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I hope that when parents come on their admission tours
Mhm.
to certain events that we put on, and I hope that they see that
Mhm.
because it is something that makes Derby so much different than any other school that I've ever been a
Mhm.
part of. It's all about the kids.
And I think there are sometimes decisions that would be easier or less expensive to make, but then when you take the lens of, but is that the right decision for the students? And say, nope, we need to do that more expensive or that harder decision. So
Yeah,
it's true.
that's awesome. You didn't just work here,
Mm.
you were also a parent. You chose Derby for your students, Ronan and Delaney. How did that experience as both a parent and admission leader shape your perspective?
Mhm. I think I was here for about 5 years before Delaney was old enough to come. And while I certainly knew we were providing a top notch education, I think I had kind of undervalued maybe the strength of the relationships between the teachers and the students and the teachers and the families and what an impact that has on a child's learning and confidence. I don't know if that really answered your question, but that was something that being a parent here made me better at my job because I was experiencing that firsthand.
And what was Delaney's experience like when she first got here? Do you remember that far? Like, was she like instantly pumped that she could finally be at the school that mom was working at, or was she like, I don't know if I want to be here?
She loved coming to school with me. It was kind of hard. Most people who work at their children's school, they're not in and out of the classroom as much giving tours, and that was sometimes hard because she'd want to be with me. And so I was saying, yes, we're at the same place, but I have to do my job. You have to do your job. So sometimes they'd have to peel her off of me. But she liked coming with me.
Yeah. And I'm sure that changed somewhere around like fifth grade or so
Mhm.
when then she saw you and she was like giving you the Heisman, like, get
Mhm.
away from me, mom. You're embarrassing me.
Exactly.
So perfect. What moments stand out from you from watching your children at Derby Academy? Were there any specific projects or memories that you have, either from Ronan or Delaney,
Mhm.
that you remember?
One thing that I love about Derby, and I talk about it with parents all the time, and I loved experiencing it through my kids, was the required opportunities we have for kids, especially in those fourth and fifth grade years where they have to take sewing, woodshop, art, instrument, all of that. And Ronan very much thinks of himself as an athlete, which he is, and he maybe didn't think that the arts had as much value for him. And so playing an instrument he was annoyed by, and he chose the clarinet. I don't think he ever practiced, but he did play it at school. And then when he got into the older grades and he had a little bit more choice about his arts electives, I remember seeing his schedule in eighth grade. In eighth grade, typically students get their first choices we tried to give them. And I looked at his schedule and he had a music elective every trimester. One was like the history of jazz. And I said, oh no, they must have given him his last choices because whatever the schedule worked
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
work here,
yeah.
I'm not going to complain. I thought he would take makerspace and woodshop. And so I went and apologized to him. I said, hey, Ronan, I saw your schedule. I'm so sorry. This is when my role at Derby probably comes into play and hurts your. And he just looked at me and was like, those were my first choices. He was so offended that I didn't think he would have chosen jazz and the ukulele. And so as a parent, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this school just helped well-round my child in a way that if I had just signed him up for clarinet lessons or jazz, he wouldn't have gone." And so just through the education, it kind of provided a well-rounded kind of lens to him that he might not have had otherwise. And then the other thing that really stands out is once they left Derby, and went on to high school, the conferences I had for both of them, their freshman year, the teachers were kind of like, how does your child know how to present so well? How do they know how to public speak so well? And participation and self advocacy, those things that are normal and expectations here were not the norm in their next environment, and they stood out in their class because they did know how to participate, self-advocate, and those are life skills that they have. Things I wish I had more public speaking in my life before working, and I just think that those their stories, but they're just now part of them,
Yeah.
and they might not have if they hadn't come to Derby's.
Yeah. And I know that Ronan is still taking art classes because I was walking around downtown Cohasset earlier in the year, or maybe it was last spring. I was like, Ronan, what are you doing? And he had his camera with him and he was going around downtown Cohasset taking pictures. So
Hmm.
he's still taking photography. He's still
Yep.
taking art
Did
classes.
ceramics this year. It all
Amazing.
started at Derby.
All
Yes,
started at Derby. So Derby opened the door for his artistic side to come out. And now it's like, we can't keep him from being an artist.
definitely.
How does being a Derby parent help you connect with prospective families?
I hope it makes me more relatable. I think sometimes people come and they think they're coming for their parent interview or whatnot, and we try to make it more of a conversation. But the more stories I can share about my children's experience here, I hope that it makes them feel more comfortable and that I'm more relatable to them in the process.
Amazing. You run both the Parent Ambassador program
Mhm.
and the Derby Student Ambassadors, the DSAs. Why are these programs so important to Derby?
They're important for a number of reasons. One is for the prospective families. There has been a shift in my time here where families really are doing more research as they're looking for schools for their children. And it's a big financial commitment. They want to make sure that it's the right choice for their family. And oftentimes they want to talk to other parents whose children are here. And yes, I've been a parent, but I do work here.
Yeah,
And so I think it's nice for them to have this kind of army of parents who are willing to share their stories and help prospective families. But I also think having parents invested in the school as ambassadors increases school pride. It increases that partnership between home and school, and it just sustains long-term health. There's so many reasons that it's important. And student ambassadors, that I love the student ambassadors. I don't think anybody can sell the school better than one of our sixth, seventh, or eighth graders, or even if you were at the event yesterday, a first grader. Parents being able to see a student give a tour, talk to them about their experience, then I think they can envision what a Derby education could do for their child and say, oh, wow, when my child's that age, they're going to be able to talk that confidently to adults, make eye contact. I think, like I said, it also, for the students too, increases school pride. It gets people really focusing on the amazing positive aspects of Derby on a daily basis, which is awesome.
yeah. I remember when you first put out the Google form for students to sign up for the DSAs.
Hmm.
These kids were writing 2 paragraphs
Hmm.
of why they wanted to be a Derby student ambassador and all the things that they love
Hmm.
about Derby. As someone that works with the eighth graders, it's so amazing to see, even after they've been here for 8, 9, 10 years, they still have this amazing pride about the school that they go to and they want to share it with the world. It's really great. What makes a great student ambassador?
So many different qualities. One, again, I keep saying school pride, but somebody who wants to do it, that makes a good ambassador. Kids are not made to do this. It's something that's voluntary. And so I think right from the start, that's a good quality. Somebody who wants to do it. Kids who are responsible and responsive. We do need kids to be checking their email, responding to us. Yes, I can do that tour. Yes, I'm going to check in with my teacher and make sure it's okay that I miss English that day. So kids who are responsible and responsive in that regard. And then we take a real range of students because there's going to be a real range of children applying. So we want kids with different interests. Not everybody has to be the most outgoing, but they have to be willing to talk to people about Derby. So there's a real range, but just the desire to do it, I think, is the best quality.
Yeah. So yesterday we hosted an event here, and obviously when this comes out, it'll be a couple weeks ago. What do you hope families feel as they walk through the doors at Derby for the first time? Like when all those families were kind of pouring into the Terry Library, what were you hopeful that they would feel right away?
Warmth, the warmth of our community. And we hear over and over again that that is what families feel, but that's what we hope for, that we're going to have friendly faces welcoming them, that it's not going to feel like this overwhelming experience applying to a school or attending an event. We want people to feel at home and kind of a sense of community from the start.
And what advice would you give families that are just beginning the school search process? Obviously, it's a little late to be just beginning the school search, but there are families in different situations, right? There might be a family that has just moved to the South Shore, or some family that, just had a little hiccup at their current school and now they're starting the school search process. What do you want them to know? What advice would you give them?
But not to put all their eggs in one basket. What they might think is the right fit school for their child might not be. So explore various different types of schools and see the feeling you get when you walk on a campus. Yeah, I could see my child here, or this doesn't really feel like the right fit. But I would say keep your mind open, explore lots of possibilities, and trust the process.
Yeah, I tell all my eighth graders when they are leaving a campus tour, what is that feeling in your gut telling you? There are some schools that you're going to walk on a campus and just be so excited that you're there. And that's the fit. If you're walking back to your car after the day's over and you're like, that was okay, that's probably not the right fit. So I always tell them that gut is so important in this process. Switching gears just a little bit, Derby's motto is improve both mind and heart. It's something that we talk about every single day, something that we talk about in leadership meetings, in school meetings, all day long. We're talking about improving both mind and heart. How do you see that coming to life during the admission process?
I think our process is so all encompassing, and that when we're trying to get to know applicants, we're not just trying to look at the report cards and get to know who they are academically. We want to know their interests. We want to know what drives them. And then a lot of schools just have an interview and a tour, whereas we have students come spend a full day on our campus. And I think that is really kind of respecting them in the process. The kids, change is hard, and allowing them a full day to see, oh, what would this change look like and feel like? I can see myself there. It also allows us to really get to know the child, not just on paper. And I think that's the hard part, is that you can read on someone on paper and know who they are academically and the mind part, but who are they as a person? What's their heart like? So that process really allows for us to kind of do it all,
Yeah.
see who they really are.
Love that 360 view of every
Mhm.
applicant that comes on campus. I really
Mhm.
enjoy that too. What does community mean to you at Derby, and how do you help families feel a sense of belonging right away?
As an employee, I think the community of colleagues is amazing. Not quite answering your question, but one thing I love people to know about Derby is that we are all so supportive of each other. When I first started here, I remember getting an email from one of the teachers who sent it out to everybody, like, "Hey, I have an away game tomorrow. Can anybody cover my study hall?" And I'm like, "Who's going to cover someone's study hall?" At the end of the day, there were like 30 people that responded within an hour. And I'm like, that's a community you want to be a part of. And I think because as adults, we all support each other so much that just trickles down and helps create the community who we are. And I think new families tell me all the time, I can't believe how welcoming the families who've been here have been. The number of texts and emails and invitations we've gotten has been more than I ever expected. So I think it trickles down and it really is a community. We also do things such as host families so that the new families are being, they're being reached out to over the summer months. Hey, come on over. My child's doing this. Do you want to meet at Nona's? And that helps build relationships and community from the start. We have a number of different really low key, come play on the playground, have a popsicle over the summer. And just those little ways of helping kids and families meet people, I think then sets them up for success in the fall when they are thrown into our community. And there's lots of events and ways to get involved.
Perfect. Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback on that, my wife is on the pre-K chat with all the other parents, and it's such a warm, welcoming community. All throughout the fall, it was, hey, we're meeting at such and such
Mhm.
playground at noon, no pressure, but if you'd like to
Mhm.
come and spend some time, we're going to be here. So it's a great way to get to know the other families and meet them out in certain places. And it's no pressure if you can go or not go, but everybody was just so inclusive and welcoming. And it just feels nice that you can get to know students and families before you step foot on
Mhm.
campus as a student. There are all sorts of opportunities.
And I think new families, especially when their children are coming in later years, are so surprised by just how inclusive and welcoming it is. They worry, oh, these kids have been together since pre-K and my child's coming in sixth grade. How's that going to work? It works.
Yeah.
Everybody's so welcoming.
Yeah. And I know you've listened to Emma Golding, but she was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and that was her exact experience. She was like, the first day, I made friends instantly, and we're still good buddies today. And we hang out at recess together. We play gaga ball together. We go to sports together. We go to classes together. And she just had the experience of inclusiveness, belonging the first moment she stepped on campus. And that's got to be a great feeling for an admission person, because you are telling parents that all of this is going to happen. But once they get here, it's kind of out of your hands whether that happens or not. And it's still happening 20 years later. So that's got to be a great feeling.
And it just exceeds our expectations, which is amazing.
Perfect. So we are almost out of time, but I did want to run through a couple of quick questions. You can answer this in one word, or you can give me a minute answer.
Okay.
Tom Graziano did like 4 minutes on each. Don't do that.
Okay.
But somewhere in Jerry Boardman was one word and wouldn't even allow me a follow-up question. So anywhere in between would be fantastic. Favorite Derby tradition?
I would say the Derby Day Choral Concert, which is not a huge, long-standing tradition. I was trying to think of when it started. I think maybe 17 years ago. And I love that everybody is together, all dressed up in celebration of the 8th graders.
When our kids dress up, coat, tie, dresses, looking that is like my favorite days of the year. They look so great. Best part of admission season?
When families are first coming and taking a tour and looking at Derby, seeing the school through their eyes for the first time is just, and one thing, this is a long answer, I'll try to make it.
That's right.
Something that comes up almost every tour, which surprises me. I think maybe I take it for granted because I've been here so long. People always say, everyone's really happy. And they look at me like it's something like, they should be. They're here like 7 hours a day. And that, I guess, is not true everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is something that stands out. So that's my favorite part, is seeing people be surprised by how happy everybody is.
It is so true, because on the way to school, my kids are excited to be coming here. Oftentimes they're the ones that are first in the car. And then I go pick up my kids at aftercare after the day is over, and they're like, 5 more minutes. And I'm like, you've been here since 7:30. It's 4:30. Now's the time we got to go. And they just want to stay.
It's a happy place.
It is a happy place. One word families often use to describe Derby?
Community. It's kind of redundant. I've said it a lot, but it really is. It's a community.
After 20 years, what continues to excite you about your role?
I get to meet new people every single day. I'm a people person. I'm a talker, as you know. And I just get to meet new people every day. And that's one thing. And the other is being able to go into the classrooms on a daily basis and just see the joy and how amazing and competent our kids are.
Last question. I ask all my guests this. Since you are a Derby Difference podcast listener, you know what's coming. In your words, what is the Derby difference?
The relationships, the confidence, the joy, the learning by doing. There's so much that makes the Derby difference, but I think the outcome too. Our kids are confident. They are ready. They have the skills to manage their time. There's so many different things. There's so many things that make the Derby difference. I can't put it into a few words, but everything.
Wonderful. Thank you. That brings us to the end of this episode of The Derby Difference. A huge thank you to Nicole Carnes for sharing her story, her perspective, and her deep love for the Derby community. After more than 20 years, Nicole continues to be one of the first faces families meet and one of the strongest voices of what Derby stands for: connection, belonging, and improving both mind and heart. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe for more conversations with students, faculty, staff, and alumni who bring the Derby difference to life. And until next time, keep living the Derby difference.